Hello everyone, bringing you a video today looking at a few different 1930s and 40s period civilian razors. We're not going to be looking at issue razors today, but some of the civilian items which you might include in your small kit. That's the reason I've collected them. I'm not an aficionado on period razors by any means. These are basically items I've picked up in order to complete small kit, and I've accumulated a few of them because there were many different types around at the time. These are all fairly standard. Certainly ones which were relatively popular at the time, and we'll just have a run through some of them. They've come from different places. We'll have a look at the razors first, and then we'll have a look at them in the sets they've come in, because most of them have come in a boxed set or other. But anyway, we'll have a look at that now in a bit more detail.
Okay, so here we have a selection of safety razors. From left to right we have a Gillette, a gold tone Gillette three-piece razor. Next to that we have a Valet auto strop, which is an interesting design, which was definitely carried by some. It turns up in Fusilier Payne's kit, and this is actually one I've looked at previously, but I'm going to include it here as well. Next along we have another gold tone razor. This is interesting in that it has a WarDonea handle, but the head is Gillette. Now this was given to me by a friend. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. It's presumably been put together with the Gillette head, which will take Gillette blades, but using the handle, which could possibly just have been a preference. I have swapped the handles between these, and the thread is the same. So the Gillette handle from this will fit on the Gillette head from this, and the WarDonea handle will fit on this Gillette head. So they are interchangeable. They use the common thread. So this one's been assembled from bits by someone previously for their preference, and it's quite an interesting little piece from that point of view, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And then finally on the right here we have a New Edge WarDonea safety razor in Bakelite, and I believe this is a white Bakelite as opposed to injection molded plastic. Certainly the case it came in is Bakelite, but as I say, this is a sort of a hybrid. It has a metal top plate there, but it is a screw together plastic, or well, Bakelite I think version. You can see a three-piece there, so it's similar in design to the two gold tone razors in the way it comes apart and goes together, but obviously made in, I suppose, more modern materials, quite up to date for the time period. These two here both unscrew as well. They're both three-piece razors, obviously with a comb in this instance. You can see there, slotted to hold the blade in place. The blade fits between these two parts. They screw back together. And the same with this one here. And as I say, this is interesting because it is a WarDonea. Don't know if the camera will pick this up. Maybe if I bring it a little further. There we go. So WarDonea, but on the head here, made in USA. WarDonea is made in Sheffield. It's a UK manufacturer. Made in USA, Gillette. So a hybrid there of two different manufacturers in one, and this is how it came to me. And then the Valet auto strop is a somewhat different system in that this levers up and you fit a blade in there. It's a single edge as opposed to a double edge like these ones, and then that just locks down like that. These all came in boxes or in little sets, so we'll have a talk about them individually in relation to the other bits and pieces they came with. So the Gillette razor, the gold tone Gillette razor, which is the one which is on the far left when we were talking about these all lined up together, came in a little leather pouch, as you can see here. Nice and compact. This would be a handy thing to carry with you in your pocket. And you can see in there it's disassembled inside. So the handle has its own little loop. The head has its own little loop. I've shown you how this goes together, but it also includes a little gold tone. You can see how the leather's begun to affect the finish there. But it has this little gold tone spare blade carrier, spare blade holder. And one thing I like about this, I think it's in here. Yes, there's a little, let me pull this out here, to give some Wilkinson sword blades in there as well. There's a little, now this will be from Wilkinson Sword as opposed to Gillette, so this is something someone's put in there, but Mr. Swords reminds you to buy further supply of his blades. There are only two left, so they put that in just ahead of the last two blades in there. So we have a mix of Gillette and Wilkinson Sword blades in there. Probably relatively modern. I'm not sure quite when these would date from, but nice thing to have anyway, and I've just left this as it came. So that's the first of the ones we looked at in the lineup, little gold tone. Gillette Razor there, and in this neat little leather pouch, which is rather nice. Okay, so the next one along was the Valet Auto Strop, and that comes complete with its original box. One of these is carried by Fuselier Payne in the famous photographs taken in Normandy in 1944, which actually show his small kit, and he has one of these razors in its case. In the case, we have a pretty much complete set in here. The razor itself, which fits in this little loop here, and this is quite a solid piece, stiffened piece. Instructions for use, which is important with this because the Valet Auto Strop, much as the blades don't last forever, obviously, the idea of this is a safety razor where you can sharpen and strop the blades to give them a much longer life. And so you have the instructions there, and you can see on the front there an illustration of how you should strop the blade. We do have a little carrier for blades here. You have a lovely little thing which is a cardboard training blade or practice blade, a dummy blade. We'll focus on that, which allows you to practice inserting these, and then you have the little paper package blades themselves. And this is of the period, these were around in the 30s and used through the 40s certainly. You see, pop that back in there, and would be quite popular I'd imagine, because obviously stropping the blades means you get a bit more life out of them than you would do with purely disposable blades. And then in the box here, which delicate opening this, is the leather strop, which is, you can see here. So second quality, this particular example, but it is what it is, and that's the strop for sharpening the blades. So as I say, probably quite popular because you do get a little bit of extra blade life out of these compared with purely disposable blades, but they would again be a little bit more expensive than buying a cheaper, purely disposable blade razor. But that's it. It fits neatly in its little case there, and the case is good quality as well. Nice hinged lid and everything. And again, not too large a little package to carry in your haversack. So as I say, it's something that Fuselier Payne was carrying, so definitely something that was around and in use at the time. Okay, so this is unfortunately a rather tatty example, but this is a little case that was given to me by a friend of mine. It was his dad's, and as far as he's aware, this is how it was used and so forth. This is the example which is sort of the hybrid between the WarDonea handle and the Gillette head. The one I tried to show you in close-up earlier. And as you can see, heavily worn. I didn't show you that before, just how much of the gold tone has gone off the top there, the gold finish. And inside, it's a very simple leather case that does allow you to carry this assembled. There are two boxes here, and there originally were loops for these, but the stitching and so forth has come away. You can see in here there would have been a loop, I think, to take the handle of the razor at the back there. That's gone. But you do have some blades left in little packages here, and these are Gillette blue blades. Now I do have a little pack of these here out, just to show you what's in there. You can see here the package. Have a look at the back there, to show you the details. Focus on there. You can pause should you wish to read. But that's what's tucked away down there, is two little boxes of Gillette blue blades. Perhaps not this exact pattern of box, but that's the type of blades that are in there. So as I say, just an interesting one in this particular example. It has a finer knurling than you have on the handle of the actual Gillette razor. Whether that was the preference of the chap who put this together, I don't know, or whether it was purely because you could use Gillette blades in it, I don't know. The WarDonea type, I believe, well, certainly the one I have has its own WarDonea blades with it, so it may have been a preference changing the head, like the handle, like the grip, change the head so that it could accept blades, Gillette blades. But there we are. That is that's that particular example, and the little pouch that it came in. Sadly, the snap, the press stud, is not working anymore, not properly anyway. It sort of grips, but not properly. But nevertheless, an interesting little item. Finally, here we have something which I've assembled. I originally bought this little set minus any kind of razor or anything, but the WarDonea razor fits rather nicely in here. We have a tube, one tube here, containing the shaving stick, the shaving soap. We have another one here, and this contains a shaving brush. This is all Bakelite, of course. Bakelite handled shaving brush. And inside we have a case with the razor, WarDonea razor, and this is certainly similar to WarDonea sets I've seen elsewhere. I'm not entirely sure that this case, which is made of a sort of faux, I'm not sure if it is a faux leather or a real leather. It could be, not entirely sure on that. I think it's a faux leather of some description. And these two, it matches quite nicely in terms of colour and so forth. They're not a perfect match, so I've put them together purely to complete this little set. When I bought it, it was just the case and the two tubes. I bought this off my friend Alan. It was the case and the two tubes, and the case with the razor fits in there rather nicely. So that was quite a nice thing to do, just to put it together. Whether this is originally a WarDonea set, I don't know, but when I bought it, the razor was missing. So it's somewhat complete now, but I'll move those bits to one side. The bit you'd probably be carrying with you in the field if you didn't just carry the razor and some spare blades would be the box. And in here, it still has the paper label in the lid, which is rather nice. New Edge WarDonea safety razor. As I said before, the New Edge razor. You have the razor itself, and that can be carried assembled in there, and this little notch in the bottom there. You can possibly see in the light if I get that to reflect properly. There's a little notch in there which takes the handle, and then there are two little sets of two little Bakelite blade holders there, and they both have WarDonea blades in them, as you can see there. And barrel hole blade, I believe, let's have a look here, the same on all of them. This is the issue I was mentioning earlier with the WarDonea, is it doesn't match up to the Gillette type of blade. The way these pins and so forth are located, it won't take blades from certain other manufacturers. I'm not a razor expert, so I can't say which it will and which it won't, but I've certainly read that elsewhere, and looking at it, it appears to be different. So that would have caused a problem. I'm sorry, I'm trying to put that on the wrong way around. Dear oh dear, looking through the camera. But that is the WarDonea, and as I say, in its own little case there, which is rather nice. I do like Bakelite. It's an interesting material, very of its time in many ways. And that's quite a nice little set there. And as I say, it's nice that it still has its paper label in the top there. But just another example of something you might have had. And I do have a soap dish made in the same material, which means you have quite a nice little sort of bathroom set with the two Bakelite tubes, one with the shaving brush, one with the shaving stick, this case with the razor, and then also there I do have elsewhere, I'm not going to show it here because it's not particularly pertinent, but a Bakelite soap dish as well, which nicely completes and sets off the set.
So there we are, just a brief run through some of the razors I've accumulated in putting together small kit from the Second World War era. As I say, it's not something it's not a focus of the collection, obviously, but I thought it would be interesting to have a look at. I've accumulated something of a collection, and I just thought it would be interesting to run over some of the different varieties you can keep an eye out for, which would be suitable in period hold-alls as part of the small kit. So I do hope you found that interesting, as I say. If you have done and you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, then please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've already subscribed, do make sure you've clicked the little notification button, the little bell down below. That will, of course, alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you'd like to support the channel, you can. There's both a Patreon and a PayPal link down below, and a massive thank you to everyone who supports the channel using those two methods. As ever, greatly appreciated, and thank you very much indeed. There's also social media for the channel. There's Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, all linked down below. And also, if you want to contact me but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address down there as well. But that's everything I wanted to cover in this video. So until next time, bye for now.